Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. I mentioned a number of programs the other day, and one of my friends asked me about one called MK Ultra because he didn't understand what it was. Well, if you ask a lot of people, they'll say it's stupid, it's foolish, it's hogwash. Well, they may very well be right. It is stupid, it's foolish, and it may very well be hogwash. Problem is, it's real. There was some documents that came up, surfaced in the 80s and 90s, and basically these documents prove that the U.S. government was in fact experimenting with mind control in a program called MK Ultra. It supposedly ended back in 1974, but documents have since surfaced that say it may have been continued in Canada later because there are links to a Canadian institute that the CIA was using in this program. And this is a CIA backed program. An American intelligence agency was backing these experiments in a Canadian hospital, research facility, whatever. I'm going to get into that here in a minute. But let me give you the basics here. After World War II, Nazi scientists and doctors were brought into the U.S. to aid against the communists. It was called Operation Paperclip. I talk about that in another video. Go check it out. Some of these went to Camp King, and I'm not sure exactly where that is. I believe it's in Europe somewhere. Maybe in England. At any rate, many of these had been doing mind control experiments during the war in Germany. This was the precursor to MK Ultra. And Sidney Gottlieb ran MK Ultra. He's a doctor. I'm not sure exactly of what, but he was the guy who ran it. And there's been a lot of deaths associated with this. There's a very famous guy named Olson who he was dosed with LSD and ended up jumping out of a window, or at least suicide out a window. We're not sure. My point is, the official story is he committed suicide, but there was some stuff in the room where he'd washed his socks and hung them out and blah 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 blah, where it stuff that you wouldn't expect a person who committed suicide would do. But and again, I can't say it was or wasn't, but there is reason to believe that it wasn't. Now that being said, the origins for the actual MK Ultra program, started after the Korean War. During the Korean War, American POWs were subjected to mind control experimentation by the North Koreans, maybe by the Chinese as well. But the CIA got wind of this and decided that if the other side was doing it, I guess we need to do it too, because our mind control's got to be better than their mind control. At any rate, they secretly started dosing people with LSD and doing other weird experiments like that. The documents proved that the CIA was doing this. It involved a lot of they would employ prostitutes, and the prostitutes would get somebody off the street in there, and they would secretly dose them with LSD and see what information they could get out of them. Secret personal information, so that they could find out if this was working. Now, as far as Canada goes, in 1957, Dr. Ewan Cameron set up practice as a therapeutic psychologist. He secretly conducted mind control experiments on unwitting subjects. People would come to him with problems, and he would use this. He would experiment with this mind control techniques on him, and I'm going to get to those here in a minute. But he was present and at the Nuremberg trials after World War II, and he examined Rudolf Hess. Now, these procedures that he was doing on people, this is not a complete thing, but this is my understanding. He used massive amounts of electroshock therapy to wipe patterns of past behavior out of someone, essentially wiping their mind. A normal electroshock therapy takes once or twice a week for a certain period of time, and the idea is to get rid of this bad behavior and relearn good behavior. Well, this they're using 2 or 3 a day, massive amounts, so much that the person is no longer convulsing from the shocks. And then after that, it's literally you doing a memory wipe, and they call that de-patterning. That's the official term for it. Now, and in regular psychiatric circles, they found out that didn't work. So they still use electroshock therapy to some degree, but the de-patterning itself, the massive amounts of it, they don't do that anymore. After the mind is wiped, the memory wipes. And this has been very successful as far as memory wiping, by the way. I'm going to get to that in a minute. They do what's called psychic driving, and what that is they use repetitive taped and recorded messages, statements, and the subjects are forced to listen to this to program in new behavior. And they listen to this repetitively, thousands and thousands of times. After that, they use massive amounts of drugs for a month or more while they're kept asleep. They keep them asleep for like a month or more, and they use massive amounts of drugs. And I've got a list of the drugs down here: LSD, artane, anectine, bulbocapnine, and curare. Okay, and basically what this does is it wipes out the memories of what was done to them. So they're out, they're being shocked, then they're being reprogrammed, and then they don't remember the programming. That's the effect of this. Again, the documents prove that the CIA was behind all this. 25 years, $25 million in the 50s. That's a lot of money back then. Many researchers had no idea that they were being funded by the CIA, because they were getting grants from this organization, grants from that institute, and donations from this, this group of people, and they don't realize the CIA is behind it. They were front groups for the CIA. Ravens Crag Mansion in Canada was where the Allen Memorial Institute was, and this is where Dr. Cameron did his stuff. He was the very first director. He was the director for 20 years. He was an American citizen. It is unknown if he knew of the CIA involvement, but he was there. The victims still report missing memories over years or decades in other words, years or decades of their memories gone. Just gone. They can't remember it. And they have increasing psychological problems. One lady, they regressed her back to a little kid. She had to go through potty training again. It was, just totally demeaning. I mean, ridiculously bad. After all of this is said and done, there is documentation to show that the Trudeau government, the current Trudeau government, was keeping people silent, and they're essentially settling out of court and paying to keep people silent on this. So I'm going by what I found out in the research. So now, one of the things you got to understand is there was a movie back in the day called The Manchurian Candidate. The original starred Frank Sinatra, and they did a very recent one starring Denzel Washington. Both were really, really good movies. It's rare I find a remake that's good, but Denzel, not very many people can argue with Denzel Washington. He's one of the best. He's up there. He's a hell of a good actor, and when he makes a movie, it's worth making, and he makes sure he does a good job because he's got the talent to do it. Smart man, good man. But anyway. The original one, like I said, was Frank Sinatra. It was based on a Korean POW who had undergone mind control and was turned into an assassin. They called him the Manchurian Candidate, hence the name of the movie. Here's the kinker, the clicker here, the crux of the whole thing. If you go into a medical facility and you're there for a year and you come out and you don't remember what happened, they did something to you in there. You just don't know what. They could have literally been programming you with these tapes to instill, changed patterns of behavior. What's on those tapes? Because at the last part is erasing that so you don't remember it. but it's still in there. You see what I'm saying? They could literally be turning people into assassins. That was one of the goals of MK Ultra, creating sleeper agents. And what better sleeper agent is one that doesn't know he's a sleeper agent? You see what I'm saying? It's hard to break routine and to do something. It's hard to get caught doing something bad if you don't know you're doing something bad. It's hard to mess up and foul up in questioning when you don't know that you're an enemy agent. You see what I'm saying? I'm probably not wording that well, but you get my point. If I'm mind controlled and that I don't know that I'm a trained assassin and I have to get close to person X to kill him, and I'm working to go towards person X and they interview me, I don't know that I'm going to do that, so I can't accidentally give up that I'm going to do it. You see what I'm saying? That's the best kind of sleeper agent, one that doesn't know he's a sleeper agent. So that was the ultimate goal of the mind control, and I can't imagine any other way of putting that. It's just it's a gross violation of your humanity, of your human rights, of your dignity. The people who did this did not get there is a what do you call it? There's a thing that doctors get called informed consent. What that means is the doctor has talked to the patient, they've discussed the treatment, they know all of the ins and outs, they know the good and the bad, they know the possible side effects, and the patient can then give permission to undergo the procedure. None of that was given here. This was done secretly. These people had no idea what was going on. They came here with minor little problems and left, completely changed individuals with massive memory loss. God knows what else, The first rule of the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. The people who are doing this ignored that. Just saying. MK Ultra was real, and you got to watch out for that kind of stuff because you never know who's doing it. And we still don't know if it's completely stopped or not. Because, when has the government ever lied to us, right? You folks have a good night. God bless one and all.